roadside curses. Not until the night I pulled over on Highway 513 and my friend Cassandra disappeared into a crop field and came back different. The doctors found something in her blood they couldn't identify, something that wasn't human. And when the police searched that field, they found 12 other cars, abandoned, keys still in the ignition, doors wide open. Tonight, I'm sharing 5 true highway horror stories that'll make you check your rearview mirror twice. Stories about fake police checkpoints that aren't really checkpoints. About mile markers that repeat over and over, trapping you in an endless loop. And about a hitchhiker who died 3 years ago, but still saves lives. Because here's what nobody tells you. The most dangerous thing on a dark highway isn't drunk drivers or bad weather. It's what's standing just beyond your headlights, watching you pass by. If you survived tonight's stories, hit that subscribe button. Welcome to Mysterious Clicks. And whatever you do, don't pull over. Let's begin. It happened on a night I'll never forget. I was the designated driver for my friends after a party, Tyler, Brandon, and Cassandra. We live way out in the country, so anytime we wanted to hit the bars or go to parties, we'd have to travel long distances on dark, empty roads. That's why it was such a big deal for one of us to stay sober enough to drive. We were heading home down Highway 513, an unlit stretch of road littered with the occasional house or two, but mostly just endless forest and crop fields. The road curves through the darkness for miles before reaching town, where all the bars are. About 20 minutes into the drive back, Cassandra started crying that she had to piss really badly. I told her she'd have to wait, but honestly, I was starting to feel the urge too. That, mixed with the fact that Cassandra was now screaming in her drunken fit, made me figure, why not just pull over to the side of the road and use the woods? Cassandra got out first and disappeared into the crops on one side of the highway. I went to the opposite side into the woods, because I'm the type of person who can't have people watching me. I finished first and got back in the car. Tyler and Brandon were singing along to the loud music blasting from the radio, completely oblivious. I just sat there in silence, growing impatient. My 2 drunk friends didn't seem to find anything strange about the fact that Cassandra had now been gone for 5 minutes. So I got back out to call her name. Tyler has a much stronger voice than me, so when he screamed for her, it would have been impossible for her not to hear. But still, she didn't call back. I didn't want to go into those crops, but I felt like I had to. She was my friend, and I was the most aware person there at that moment. I forced Tyler to come with me since I was too afraid to go in alone. Brandon stayed in the car. He was just too far gone at that point. With a flashlight from my glove box, Tyler and I pushed our way through the thick, overgrown crops, walking in the only direction we could think of. Straight away from the car, Tyler was calling Cassandra's name while laughing his ass off. I guess in his drunken state, he found the whole thing funny, but I just wanted to make sure she was all right and get the hell home. Over the sounds of our own footsteps brushing crops aside and Tyler's laughter, I heard something else nearby. I put my arm out to Tyler's chest to halt him. Now all that could be heard was the night breeze blowing through the crops. "What is it?" Tyler whispered. "Shh," I responded. Tyler called out Cassandra's name again. I joined in, figuring it was just her trying to sneak up on us and scare us. Then we heard footsteps, and then they stopped. We walked a little deeper into the crops. That's when we came to a narrow clearing, some kind of walking path cut through the field. Momosich was probably the width of 2 people, just enough to walk through. I looked to my left, as far down as the light would let me see, and then to the right. I heard 3 heavy footsteps. Then a couple of crops were pushed outward into the opening as somebody stepped into view. At first, my light was only revealing their legs, so given the circumstances, I assumed it was Tyler. But as I raised the flashlight, it revealed not Tyler, but some random man I'd never seen before. His facial features weren't clear enough in the darkness to give a good description, but I could tell one thing: he didn't look friendly. I ran. I bolted back in the only direction I remembered coming from. I guess adrenaline kicked in because it only took me about 10 seconds to make it back to the car. Brandon was passed out in the back seat, so I didn't bother trying to get help from him. I started honking the horn repeatedly, trying to get Tyler's and hopefully Cassandra's attention. The sight of that man standing in the crops just disturbed me deeply. I didn't know if he owned this land or not, but something felt wrong. I continued laying on the horn until finally Tyler came stumbling out of the crops, dragging Cassandra, who seemed to be unconscious. I jumped out to help him lift her into the back seat. "What the hell happened?" I shouted. Tyler pointed to a deep gash on her forehead, like she'd been struck with something heavy and sharp. Tyler seemed to be sobering up pretty quickly due to the situation. He told me to drive to the nearest hospital, which was 10 minutes away. The drive there was chaos, full of panic and yelling. We brought Cassandra in to have her wound treated immediately. It was only then, while talking to the nurses, that Tyler explained something he hadn't mentioned in the car. He'd seen some guy dragging Cassandra's collapsed, unconscious body through the crops before the man noticed Tyler and fled deeper into the field. That man, the one I'd seen in the crops with us that night, he did this to her. When Cassandra finally woke up after getting stitched up, she had no recollection of the entire night. Not from the moment we stepped into the party to the moment she got struck in the head. Nothing, just blank memory. I reported everything to the police. They searched the crop field for days. What they found still haunts me. 12 abandoned cars, keys still in the ignition, doors wide open. Some had been there for years, covered in rust and overgrown with weeds. Others looked recent. The police found traces of blood in several vehicles. They found Cassandra's phone about 50 yards into the crops, near an old grain silo that had been abandoned for decades. When they entered that silo, they found living quarters, makeshift beds, chains bolted to the walls, and photographs, dozens of them, of people who'd pulled over on Highway 513 over the past 20 years. Tyler's flashlight was found there too, covered in blood. But Tyler? He was never found. The police searched for weeks, search dogs, helicopters, volunteers combing every inch of those fields. Nothing. He just vanished. Cassandra is still in a facility now. The doctors found some kind of sedative in her bloodstream they couldn't identify, something that wasn't in any database. They also found crop soil under her fingernails and defensive wounds on her hands she doesn't remember getting. I drive past that spot every day on my way to visit her. The crops are always moving, even when there's no wind. And sometimes late at night, I swear I can see flashlights moving deep in the field. I never pull over on Highway 513 anymore. Ever. "12:17 a.m. I still remember that number glowing bright green on my car's dashboard as I was driving home from the night shift at the pharmacy I worked at. Taking Highway 78 at that hour was always a little dangerous. No lights, usually no other cars, and deer would constantly wander onto the road. You wouldn't notice them until it was too late if they were in your direct path. That's why I always drove slow, 50 miles per hour max. As the road curved to the left, a clear row of reflective orange lights appeared on the horizon, traffic cones, and in front of them, a flashing blue light. I could make out what looked like the reflective material of a safety vest. I was so confused trying to figure out what the hell this was about that it didn't even hit me. I should be slamming on the brakes until it was almost too late. My car came to a screeching halt, tires burning against the asphalt. The man wearing the reflective vest started walking toward me, arms waving. I guess he was telling me not to move. As he got closer, I could see what appeared to be a police uniform underneath the vest. He knocked on my window with his knuckle, a signal to roll it down. I lowered the window, getting a better look at his face. He was black, about 6 feet tall, skinny, with slight stubble and a left earring. Young, I'd guess around 25, but something was off. He spoke in a very low, non-commanding voice, especially for an officer. "License and registration, please." I paused. Did I do something wrong? I definitely wasn't speeding. He paused too, looked slightly to the left, then back at me. "Sir, this is a sobriety checkpoint." His voice was still flat, robotic almost. Why would you need my ID and registration if I haven't been suspected of anything? I asked. He leaned back from my car. Step out of the vehicle to begin the test. I opened my door and stepped out. Immediately, I noticed the cop towered over me in height. He took a roll of tape out from his vest pocket, leaned down and stretched it across the pavement, about 15 feet long. Step on the end of the tape. Place your arms out to your sides. Walk across in a straight line. I did it easily, no issues, but the whole time he was directly behind me, uncomfortably close. I could feel his breath on the back of my neck. When I got to the end of the tape, I had a clearer view of that blue flashing light. It wasn't sitting on top of a police car. It was sitting on some old beat-up sedan, just stuck there, like it had been placed manually. That's when it hit me. I looked back at him. "Can I see your badge?" He just stared at me. Blank expression. No words. My heart sank, literally sank into my stomach. This guy wasn't a cop. He said something I couldn't quite make out at first, then walked back toward his car. I think he said, "I'll go get it, 1 second." He bent over into the car, grabbing something. I didn't wait to see what it was. I bolted back to my car, fumbling with the door handle. As I turned the ignition, he looked up and raised a gun. I slammed the pedal to the floor. My car lurched forward, plowing through the traffic cones as a loud crack echoed behind me. My rear windshield spiderwebbed, a bullet hole dead center. I saw the headlights of his car flick on in my rearview mirror, but by that point, I was already going over 70, and there was no way he was catching me. I got off at the next exit. As soon as there were streetlights around, I turned off my headlights to draw less attention and finished the drive to my house in complete panic mode. The next morning, I went straight to the police station. I reported everything: the fake checkpoint, the uniform, the gun, the bullet in my windshield. The detective's face went pale. "You're the fourth person to report this in the last month," he said, "but you're the first one who got away." He pulled out a file. Inside were photos of 2 men, missing persons. Both had been driving home late at night on Highway 78. Both had last been seen near the area I described. "We think it's a carjacking operation," the detective explained, "but it's worse than that. We found one of the missing vehicles last week, abandoned in a warehouse on the outskirts of town." He paused like he didn't want to say the next part. "There was blood in the trunk, a lot of it, and we found tools, restraints, a mattress in the back room." My stomach turned. "We believe they're not just stealing cars, they're taking people." I gave them everything I could remember: the fake officer's description, the type of car, the location. They pulled surveillance footage from a gas station nearby and got a partial plate number. 1 month later, they raided a warehouse off Route 12. They found stolen cars, dozens of them. Some had been there for years. And in the back, they found a room. Chains bolted to the walls. Dried blood on the concrete floor. Photographs pinned to a corkboard. Faces of people who'd been reported missing over the last 3 years. And they found 2 men, alive, traumatized, barely coherent. One of them had been missing for 9 days. The detective called me after the arrest. He told me I was lucky, that if I'd hesitated even 5 seconds longer, I wouldn't have made it out. I still drive Highway 78, but I never drive it alone anymore. And if I see cones, flashing lights, anything that looks like a checkpoint, I don't stop. I call 911 first, because sometimes the most dangerous people on the road are the ones pretending to protect you. I was taking a drive from Maine to Upper New York to spend the week with family. I left right after work around 5:30 p.m., so I didn't anticipate getting there until well past 1 o'clock in the morning. I had the top to my Jeep Wrangler off so I could enjoy the hot summer weather. I was somewhere in Vermont, well past midnight, when the gas light flicked on and the car started beeping. Unfortunately, the gas gauge in my car was broken, so there was no way to tell how much gas was left. I'd been told by my brother, who drove the car the previous day, that he'd filled it up to the top. But clearly he was either mistaken or lying, because I had not used anywhere near a full tank's worth of gas. One of those blue service signs zoomed past. I could see a gas station symbol in one of the boxes, so I turned off at that exit onto a desolate road which surely led to some kind of civilization. I wouldn't be finding out anytime soon, however, because the car started jittering and bumping around, making weird noises that didn't sound good at all. A few seconds later, the acceleration stopped and the car came to a helpless halt. I couldn't believe it. I'd actually run out of gas. I hopped out and got on the phone with AAA, telling them my exact location. They said they could have someone out to me in at least 20 minutes. I was grateful, but at the same time annoyed that I'd be waiting here alone for 20 minutes. For about 15 minutes, I just strolled around my car slowly, looking down at my phone, texting friends about the situation and checking social media. It was so quiet, no sounds of distant traffic, no passing cars, just the sound of crickets and other night creatures in the woods. Then I heard something walking around in the forest. The footsteps were decently heavy, so I had a hunch it was a deer or something. But the possibility of it being a bear wasn't far-fetched, given that this was bear country. I walked around to the passenger side of the car, where the woods were, where the sounds were coming from, just hoping to see a deer or some other harmless animal. Then there were two clapping sounds. It actually sounded like a person clapping their hands. I moved a little closer to listen for it again. This time it was 3 claps. I called out to the woods, hoping in some weird way that someone would answer, but after I did, the clapping didn't happen anymore. Just silence, so I got back in the car and waited. I heard footsteps once again coming from the woods, coming in my direction. Then they just stopped. I looked outside and saw a head peeking from behind a tree just ahead. It almost looked lifeless. The eyes, they just looked so empty. I couldn't even tell if they were looking at me or not. The face was pale, too pale, and completely still. I was so focused on these details, I didn't even think to scream at the horror of what I was witnessing. I cranked the windows up on both sides and turned off the headlights, but hiding in the car didn't make me feel much safer. The entire top was off. Without the headlights on, there was complete darkness. I couldn't see 2 inches in front of me, yet I was surrounded by the night noises of the forest. I was ducking down below the dashboard, doors locked, yet still completely exposed to the outside, praying not to hear any sudden sounds, like footsteps. I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach as I heard someone grab the car door handle. I tried my best not to move or make any noise. I was waiting for someone to start pounding at the glass, or at the very least, reach around the opening behind the front door to just unlock it. I was so exposed it wasn't even funny, and then I felt a hand aggressively grab onto my back. I simply lost it and screamed at the top of my lungs. But suddenly the hand released its grip on my shirt as light began to fill the area. The sound of a truck engine pulling up the road was music to my ears. I sat up and turned around to see the headlights of a AAA truck. Whoever or whatever was grabbing me was long gone. I ran outside to greet the man who stepped out. He was a big dude in his 40s. I basically cried to him about what just happened, taking huge breaths in between each sentence. Something about his personality and presence was just calming and reassuring. He filled my car up with gas and we both went on our ways. But before he left, I asked him if he'd seen anyone on the road. He said no. He'd been driving for 10 minutes and hadn't passed a single car. "You sure someone grabbed you?" he asked, skeptical. I showed him my shirt. There were muddy handprints on the back, 5 fingers, clearly visible. His face went pale. "Listen," he said quietly, "I've been working this route for 15 years. You're not the first person to call from this spot, and you're not the first to mention seeing something." He told me that 3 years ago, a couple broke down in this exact area. When police found their car the next morning, both doors were open. The couple was gone. They found the woman 2 days later, wandering the woods, completely nonverbal. She hasn't spoken a word since. The man was never found. "There's an old logging camp about a mile into those woods," he said. "Been abandoned since the 80s. 12 loggers went missing there in 1987. Just vanished. They never found the bodies. I thanked him and got the hell out of there as fast as I could. But the memory of what happened that night still haunts me. The image of that lifeless head peering around that tree I imprinted in my brain. Those empty eyes, that pale, motionless face. And the worst part? When I got home and checked the photos I'd taken on my phone that night, just random shots of the road in my car while I was bored waiting, I saw something in the background of one of them, standing at the tree line, barely visible in the darkness, a figure watching me. I never drove that route again. I was 24 and fresh out of college when I decided to do a solo cross-country road trip. My plan was to drive from California to New York, stopping at random motels along the way, testing my endurance and seeing how much of America I could experience in 2 weeks. Day 3 found me driving through the Nevada desert on Route 375, the extraterrestrial highway. I'd heard stories about UFO sightings and weird phenomena along this stretch, but honestly, I just thought it would be a cool detour. The road was completely empty, no other cars, no buildings, just endless desert and sagebrush on both sides. It was around 3:01 a.m. when I passed mile marker 88. I noticed it because the sign was bent at an odd angle and someone had spray painted "Turn Back" in faded red letters across it. I thought it was just some random vandalism, probably kids trying to add to the alien mystique of the highway. I kept driving. Radio was nothing but static. My phone had no signal. I was completely alone out here. About 10 minutes later, I passed mile marker 88 again. Same bent sign, same graffiti, exactly the same. I slowed down, confused. I glanced at my odometer. I'd definitely been moving forward. I'd driven over 8 miles since the last marker. There was no way I was seeing the same sign. But there it was. I pulled over and got out of the car, walking up to the marker to examine it. The metal was rusted in the exact same spots. The paint was chipped in the exact same pattern. Even the tire tracks in the dust next to the sign looked familiar, because they were mine. I could see where I'd pulled over just now, and where I'd apparently pulled over before, even though I hadn't stopped until this moment. My heart started racing. This didn't make sense. I got back in the car and kept driving, this time watching the odometer carefully. I drove 15 minutes at a steady 70 miles an hour. Over 17 miles. Mile marker 88 appeared again. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. This was impossible. Physically impossible. I tried turning around, driving in the opposite direction. After about 5 minutes, I saw headlights approaching from behind me. The first car I'd seen in hours. Relief washed over me. Maybe I could flag them down, ask them what the hell was going on. But as the car got closer, I realized something was wrong. It was a Jeep Wrangler, black. Same model as mine. And as it pulled alongside me, I saw the driver. It was me. My own face stared back at me through the window, pale, terrified, eyes wide with horror. My doppelganger's mouth moved, forming words I couldn't hear through the glass. Stop driving. Then the Jeep sped past me and vanished into the darkness ahead. I sat there frozen, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. What the hell was happening? I turned the car around again and drove. This time I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I just drove as fast as I could, desperate to break whatever loop I'd gotten trapped in. Mile marker 88 appeared again. But this time something was different. The graffiti had changed. Instead of "Turn Back," it now said "Stop Driving" in fresh, wet paint. I kept going. I had to. Stopping felt like giving up, like surrendering to whatever this was. And then suddenly I passed mile marker 89. The loop was broken. I didn't stop. I drove for another 2 hours straight until I reached a small town with a gas station. The sun was starting to rise. I pulled in, hands still shaking, and went inside. The attendant, an older guy with a weathered face, looked at me and immediately asked if I was okay. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said. I told him what happened, about the repeating mile marker, about seeing myself. His expression changed. He didn't laugh. He didn't look skeptical. He just nodded slowly. "You're not the first," he said quietly. He pulled out a binder from under the counter, a collection of missing persons reports and newspaper clippings. 6 people had vanished along that stretch of Route 375 over the past decade. All of them were found days later, miles behind where they'd originally disappeared, with no memory of the time that had passed. "Most of them don't remember anything," he said. "But the ones who do, they all say the same thing. They saw themselves and they got stuck in a loop." I felt sick. "How long were you out there?" he asked. I checked my phone. It was 6:47 a.m. I'd entered that stretch of highway around 3:00 a.m. But my phone said it was Saturday. I'd left on Friday night. I'd lost an entire day. When I got back to my car, I checked my dash cam footage. I always kept one running for safety. 4 hours and 37 minutes of footage, all of it showing me passing mile marker 88, over and over and over. 47 times I counted. But the worst part, the part that still keeps me up at night, was what I saw in the background of frame 31, standing next to the mile marker, barely visible in the headlights. A figure, watching me drive past. It was me, not moving, not blinking, just standing there, staring. I deleted the footage. I couldn't look at it anymore. I never finished that road trip. I drove straight home and sold the Jeep a week later, and I never drove Route 375 again, because some roads don't want you to leave. I've been a long-haul trucker for 12 years now. I've seen a lot of strange things on the road. Deer running into traffic, mysterious lights in the sky, drivers doing things that defy logic. But nothing prepared me for what happened on I-40 through New Mexico 3 years ago. It was 1:00 a.m. and I was hauling freight from Albuquerque to Amarillo. A storm was rolling in from the west. I could see the lightning flashing on the horizon. I was trying to beat the weather, pushing my rig a little harder than I probably should have. Company policy was strict. No hitchhikers. Ever. Too many horror stories about drivers getting robbed or worse. But as I rounded a curve near an old, broken overpass, my headlights caught someone standing on the shoulder. A kid. Teenage boy, maybe 16 or 17, soaking wet, thumb out. I should have kept driving. That's what the rules said. But something about the way he stood there, shivering, looking half dead from hypothermia, made me hit the brakes. I pulled over and rolled down the window. "Need a ride?" I called out. He nodded quickly and climbed up into the cab. Water dripped from his clothes onto the seat. He was pale, skinny, wearing a faded denim jacket and jeans. His hair was plastered to his forehead. "Thanks, man," he said quietly. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I've been walking for days." "Where you headed?" "Anywhere away from here." That should have been my first red flag, but I just figured he was a runaway or something. Happens more often than you'd think. I offered him a granola bar from my stash. He declined, offered him water. He shook his head. He just sat there staring out the windshield, hands folded in his lap. "What's your name?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "Elijah," he said. "Elijah Cortez." We drove in silence for a few minutes. The radio crackled with static, something about the storm messing with the signal. My CB radio went dead too. Nothing but white noise. That's when I noticed something odd. Elijah wasn't leaving any wet marks on the seat. His clothes were drenched, dripping when he'd climbed in. But the passenger seat, completely dry. I glanced at him. He was still staring straight ahead. "You okay, kid?" He turned to me slowly. His eyes looked empty, hollow. "You need to pull over," he said, "right now." I laughed nervously. "What? Why?" "Because in 4 minutes there's going to be an accident at mile 287. I looked at the mile marker we were passing. Mile 283. How do you know that? I've seen it happen, he said quietly, over and over. You have to stop or change lanes. My hands tightened on the wheel. The kid was freaking me out now. Listen, I appreciate you trying to help, but please, his voice cracked. I can't watch it happen again. There was something in his tone, desperation, genuine fear. Against my better judgment, I eased the truck onto the shoulder and stopped. Happy? I said, putting the rig in park. Elijah nodded. He pulled out an old flip phone, the kind nobody's used in years, and checked the time. 3 minutes, he whispered. We sat there in silence. I felt ridiculous, but something kept me from pulling back onto the road. 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then exactly 4 minutes after he had warned me, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. A semi-truck coming up fast, too fast. The driver was swerving, falling asleep maybe, or distracted. The truck jackknifed across all 3 lanes, tires screaming, trailer swinging wide. A pickup truck slammed into the side of it. Then another car, then another. A massive pileup right at mile 287. If I'd been driving, I would have been right in the middle of them. I sat there stunned, watching the chaos unfold in my mirrors. Emergency lights, sirens in the distance. Oh my God, I breathed. I turned to thank Elijah. The passenger seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. I would have heard it, but he was gone. And the seat? Completely dry. No water, no trace he'd ever been there. Except for one thing, sitting on the seat where he'd been was a folded piece of newspaper. Yellowed, fragile. I picked it up carefully and unfolded it. It was an obituary. Elijah Cortez, 17, killed in traffic accident on I-40 at mile marker 287. Survived by his mother, Maria Cortez, and sister, Sophia. Services to be held. The date was 3 years ago, to the day. The photo next to the obituary showed a teenage boy in a denim jacket. It was him, exactly him. I radioed the highway patrol about the accident, told them what happened. Left out the part about the ghost, obviously. They said my call helped coordinate the response. Saved lives. Later I did some research, talked to other truckers on the route. Turns out I wasn't the first. 7 other drivers had reported picking up a kid named Elijah on the anniversary of his death. All of them were warned about accidents. All of them were saved. He died in a crash at mile 287, killed instantly when a drunk driver crossed the median and hit him head on. He'd been hitchhiking home from a friend's house. Now, every year on that date, he comes back, trying to save people, trying to stop what happened to him from happening to others. I drive that route every year now, and every year, on that same date, I see him standing under that broken overpass light, soaking wet, thumb out. I don't stop anymore. He's already saved me once, but I always slow down, flash my lights twice, a little salute, and I always wonder who's he still trying to save? Because Elijah Cortez might be gone, but he's not done helping people. Some ghosts don't haunt, some ghosts protect.